Hey guys, welcome back to the Ducks and Dogs podcast. My name is Mike, here again with my co-host Matt. How you doing today, Matt? We are a week from game day.
Yeah, I'm super excited. Can't wait till Saturday. My own college lost their own game this weekend, so hopefully the Huskies can win. If they don't win, I'll be very upset.
If the Huskies don't win, Jimmy
If the Huskies
hot as hell.
He should be fired if they lose to Montana. That's all I gotta say, bro.
You can't lose to Montana. If you lose
No.
if you lose to Montana, are you coming on the podcast the next day?
No, I'm quitting. No more FQ Washington. You'll never hear from me again.
See, at least with Fresno State, it's like, all right, well, they're a solid team. Montana, you lose to Montana, it's
hey, no disrespect to Montana. They're a great FCS program, but FCS FBS, big gap.
Big gap.
Should never lose that game.
Unless it's
like Kansas.
Kansas. Yeah. So, diving into that, what do you think is the key components of your guys' matchup? Obviously, it won't be all that close. What do you think? Is there any particular player you're worried about on Montana that could maybe have a really good game against you guys?
Not particularly. Honestly, off the top of my head, I can't think of many guys on their actual roster. I know that they have about 10 Washington State guys on their roster. But as far as like names that pop out, I'm not sure. I don't follow Montana too closely. I think you're really going to see, as for Washington, they're going to throw guys out there. They're going to see what people can do. I think in some of those position battles, you might see guys rotating through even.
Okay. And who do you expect to, honestly, for Washington, have a huge game? Obviously, it's a weak opponent, so somebody's going to blow up for a big game if it's the game we're expecting.
Yeah, the thing is, like, I want to say Dylan Morris, but I feel like they are not going to really show off the playbook too much.
Dylan Morris isn't like super explosive either. He's good. He can make the throws. He's just not the make the insane, oh my lord, I've never seen that play.
I think he has the potential to be explosive. I think with the style of offense they're going to be running, which seems to be a lot more pass centric rather than just run the ball like they did last year. Mm-hmm. I think you're going to have more potential to see his playmaking ability, whether it's good or bad, because we didn't get a lot of that last year, honestly. So I just don't think that in week 0 against Montana, or week 1, is it week 1 technically?
Yes, this is week 1.
Yeah, in week 1, I don't think you're going to see a lot of that. I think the ground game is probably where you're going to see most of the production from. You're probably going to see Richard Newton in there, Kamari Pleasant, Sean McGrew. You're going to see what those guys can do out of the backfield. And yeah,
we have a Michigan fan in the live chat.
Do we really?
Yeah, we do.
I don't have
one of my good buddies, Hector. He said, "Go blue."
Yeah, that should be an interesting game.
That's what we're really looking forward to. Week 1 is just a tune-up for week 2.
Honestly.
He said Michigan's winning the tie. All right, Hector, we might have to have you on and go on a whole nother tangent about that another day.
Yeah, maybe that's next week's episode. We should get an Ohio State Michigan fan on. And
Hector, do you want to come on the podcast, man? You could come on the podcast. You're better than any other Michigan fans on Twitter.
I would say Seth, but I know you don't like Seth, so
but
that would be funny though.
So moving on to Oregon's matchup. Oregon has a tougher matchup, which, I mean, it's hard to be an easier matchup than Montana. But Oregon plays Fresno State. Fresno State has beaten many Power 5 teams. They're a group of 5 team. They're really solid. They win 10 games every couple of years. I feel like they're always really, really up there in terms of
usually in and out of the top 25.
They're pretty much what like Memphis has been lately with G5. Like they're like ranked one year, not the next, maybe ranked, they're on that level of G5 teams, and Oregon plays them as a tune-up game, and Oregon needs to make sure that the first couple quarters that they're paying attention to everything and they're doing everything right. Obviously, you can't expose the entire playbook when you're going to play an Ohio State team in week 2.
Yeah.
But Fresno State's not a Montana where we could just run halfback dive, play action with a post route and just win the game off that.
No, you're going to have to come ready. I mean, Fresno State, like we said, is a solid team, so they're no pushover.
Ohio State also has a tough first week game when they play Minnesota. So both teams will be ready to go for that week 2 matchup. That should be really fun. Oregon did name Anthony Brown as their starting quarterback. I don't know if we covered this in the last podcast episode. Stop laughing, Matt. It's not funny.
Hey, you know what? Best of luck to the guy. Obviously,
I hope he
even
succeeds.
If it's for sure. I mean, he's another athlete, right? So hope he does well. It's just not against Washington. But yeah.
I guess a couple of our listeners did want me to go in depth on why I'm not an Anthony Brown fan. So I guess we might as well dive right into that. It's a good segue into that. So when it comes to Anthony Brown won't make mistakes. He won't force a turnover. He won't force a play and cause a loss for your team. But in my opinion, he won't win you a game either. He's not going to take over the game. He's not going to have that fourth quarter drive that Cam Newton did in the 2010 national championship against Oregon. He's not going to have those drives that Marcus Mariota did in 2014. He's not gonna have those Vernon Adams type plays. I think Vernon Adams, we've seen that with more than any other. You could argue Pac-12 quarterback of late, where they're carrying a team who shouldn't be winning these games to winning games. And to be frank, if we're gonna win a national championship, we're a top 10 talent composite team now. The talent composite just dropped. We're a top 10 talent composite team, which means you can win a title, but it's still an uphill battle. You're playing teams more talented than you still when you get to the playoff, when you're playing Ohio State in a week 2. And I don't think you can just have a guy who's not going to make mistakes to win that game. I think you need explosion. I think you need someone who can win you games, who could take over a fourth quarter, who could take over an entire ball game.
Mm-hmm.
And basically, Anthony Brown's intermediate game is really good. His short game is really good. His deep game, it's 2 segments to his deep game. He can push the ball deep, but the ball or the wide receiver is going to typically end up out of bounds, and you're not going to get anything else off of it. So if the wide receiver, say a Troy Franklin, freshman wide receiver, everybody's got high expectations for him. I think even Washington fans think he's going to be a really good player.
Oh, yeah.
So he could get over a DB. He could get to over the top of a defense, and say Anthony Brown throws the ball to him. Odds are that if it's not to the out of bounds sideline, it might be incomplete, because between the numbers, his deep ball hasn't been the best.
Mm-hmm.
Now, albeit we haven't seen him in a few years, and a lot of people think highly of Quincy Wilson as a quarterback's coach. I, for one, do not. So, I mean, really, we haven't seen him in a while. I agree with that. But really, because we haven't seen him in a while, does his experience mean as much as it would have? Like, he hasn't played against a college football defense as the projected starter in, 2 years?
Yeah.
I mean, really, COVID, he didn't really play in 2020. He transferred. He got hurt. So, I mean, it's really been almost maybe 3 years. It might be 2, but it's been a long time since he's playing against starting defenses. So, really, is his experience still that valuable to where a guy who I believe outperformed him in every instance that I was able to see at fall camp with Ty Thompson, does that experience overvalue that when it's been 2 years since he's played? I mean, to go towards to put in an NFL reference, that was the reason nobody wanted to sign Cam Newton after all this stuff settled down, because he hadn't played for a few years.
Mm-hmm.
So why doesn't that apply here? It's just my thought process. I think Ty Thompson is the more talented player. I think Anthony Brown is better in week 1, but I think come week 12, Ty Thompson is by leaps and bounds the better player. It's just, you can't make up a talent gap. You can have the experience, you can play discipline, but there's only so much you can do to catch up to a massive talent gap.
Mm-hmm.
Anthony Brown, coming out of high school, is a 3-star. He's overperformed his ranking 100%, but he's been in college for 6 years now? There's a reason he's not in the NFL, and it's not because he's a national championship caliber quarterback.
Yeah.
And I think, as much as you hate the Ducks, you would even agree, once you get that top 10 roster, that's a national championship roster. You can win a title with that every single year.
100%.
So there's no reason to be throwing that away on a quarterback who I believe at his best cannot do that. At Anthony Brown's best, let me ask you as a Washington fan, at Anthony Brown's very best, can he win a national championship?
By himself, no. My point, my 2 cents on this is actually, if your backfield could stay healthy, I think he will be serviceable. Now, the question there, obviously, national championship team, you have to be firing on all cylinders. Absolutely. That defense has to be playing amazing. If you want to make up some of the talent gap that you're talking about with Anthony Brown, that backfield has to stay healthy. I think it is possible.
Not healthy going into the year. Dawgs is already out.
That's what I'm saying. That backfield's already iffy health-wise. Anyways, I think potentially, yes. I mean, there are a lot of teams. I mean, in the top 20, you could probably make an argument that a lot of those teams have a chance at the national championship if a lot of things go their way. And I'm not just saying that because Washington's 18 on the talent composite. I truly believe that most of those teams with talented rosters have a shot.
My thought is over 50% blue chip. Obviously, Chip Kelly was an anomaly. I think everyone will agree Chip Kelly was an anomaly to college football, and what he did will never be repeated, I don't think.
Yeah, for sure. But also, I mean, getting back to it with Anthony Brown, like he, I don't know if he's quite hit his ceiling yet, but just with age, you assume that he's getting close if he's not there already. You know,
Mhm.
how much better is he going to get at that deep ball? How is he going to get better at those explosive plays? Is he going to get comfortable? And we're going to see something from him that we've never known. So I think that it is possible for them to get to a national championship with Anthony Brown. I think a lot of things have to go your way for that to happen. Whereas with Ty Thompson, I did a little research since last episode, by the way, because I knew that last episode I didn't come very informed and you just talked. Obviously, you're the Ducks fan, so that's kind of how it was supposed to go. But
Mhm.
now I'm more informed, so I can agree with you and say that Ty Thompson, I also think has a higher talent ceiling and ability. So
I think even Oregon's ability as a team this year, the ceiling is higher with Ty Thompson starting. I
I can
mean,
see that.
now if Anthony Brown is on, let's just look at the fifth quarter top 25. If Anthony Brown is on any of these top 5 teams, then yeah, he could compete for a title. If he's on Alabama, if he's on Clemson, Oklahoma, Georgia, or Ohio State, he could compete for a title. But those teams, even though Oregon's been recruiting at an amazing level over the past few years, Oregon jumped into the top 10 of the talent composite. But those teams still have such a massive gap over teams like Oregon. Shoot, even the 18th LSU has a massive gap in talent over Oregon. And I just personally don't believe, even at his best, Anthony Brown could lead Oregon to a title. Now, maybe if a Sean Dollars comes back earlier than expected and him and CJ Verdell are firing on all cylinders like a, what was the duo? Was it LaMike and Kenyon Barner?
I don't remember
if they're
the
firing like
one.
that, then maybe. But that's a tall task for the running backs. Obviously, the defense Oregon has is way better than any defense we've ever seen at Oregon.
Yeah.
And you know, it only gets you so far in the modern game. You got to win points to win or score points to win a championship nowadays. They used to say defense wins championships, but I mean, is that really true anymore? I think it really revolves around the offense and how you can manipulate the other team's defense more than anything.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm still kind of a believer in that defensive philosophy because obviously, closing out games is really important on the defense, but that's usually in the later stages of the season anyways. Most of the time you have offenses winning games during the regular season.
Yeah.
And defense is definitely more of a playoff championship type of it matters scenario.
But with a 14 playoff, you got to get there.
Yeah. Very true. Very true.
So we've went over both of our teams. I mean, we both have fairly predictable matchups. I think you guys are going to smoke Montana, and I think Oregon's going to, struggle for a quarter and then probably end up beating Fresno State by what do you say, 3 to 5 scores, anywhere in that range?
I would say anything below 2 scores is alarming.
Agreed. So, I mean, I would expect personally anywhere from 3 to 5 score win.
Yeah.
And you guys should expect anywhere from a 6 to 10 point score win.
Oh, I mean, if that one is less than 3, unless they take starters out really soon.
If it's less than 5 and you're playing your starters a lot,
yeah,
I would be.
I mean, obviously, it'll depending on how much the starters play, how much they rotate, that'll tell. But
exactly,
they should win that game pretty easily, very easily, actually.
Yeah. So obviously, we both have favorable matchups in week 1. So we haven't talked about it before. We are going to talk about the 5th quarter preseason top 25, in which both me and you are voters.
Yes.
So I will do my best to remember to flash that poll on the screen right now and let you guys see what the 5th quarter top 25 is looking like. Matt, do you have any comments or concerns about what teams may be ranked a little too high or a little too low?
Actually, before we get into that, I think we should read it off for those listening on Spotify. Just so that they know what we're looking at here.
Go ahead.
So I'll start from 25. I won't talk about the receiving votes teams, but 25 is Arizona State, 24 is Ole Miss, 23 is Texas, 22 is Louisiana, 21 is Washington, 20 is Coastal Carolina. There's a typo. 18 is Penn State, 19 is Penn State, excuse me. 18 LSU, 17 USC, 15 Iowa. Oh wait, those are tied. That's why I messed it up. Okay, tied for 18th is LSU and Penn State. 17th is USC. Tied for 15th is Iowa and Indiana. 14th is Miami. 13th is Wisconsin. 12th is Florida. 11th is North Carolina. 10 is Oregon. 9 is Cincinnati. 8 is Notre Dame. 7 is Texas A&M. 6 is Iowa State. 5 is Ohio State. 4 is Georgia. 3 is Oklahoma. 2 is Clemson. And 1 is Alabama. Holy cow, that took a lot longer than I thought
And
it
to
would.
note, all of the top 4 teams have at least one first place vote. Alabama leads the way with 14 first place votes. Clemson has 2 first place votes and is in second. Oklahoma has 6 first place votes and is in third. And Georgia has 1 first place vote.
Which I found that very interesting that Oklahoma had 6 first place votes.
There was a voter who very interestingly left Oklahoma out of their top 25.
There was a reason we didn't show the full votes from everybody.
Mm-hmm. So one thing I do want to note is that Texas, I obviously had 25th, but that was because I was honestly running out of teams that I believe in. There was a big group of teams that could have been 25th. And I'm honestly shocked that neither Utah or UCLA is ranked. I figured one of them would be. Obviously not both, but I figured one of them would be. They're both getting a good bit of hype in this offseason. I guess Utah's hype is just now building up.
Mm-hmm.
But do you have any concerns with how high any teams are? Is anyone too high? Anyone too low? Do you think Oregon is too high?
Honestly, to start the season, no. I don't. I think 10 is a perfect spot for Oregon. Obviously, as a UW fan, I would put Washington higher. Even as a just college football fan, I would put UW higher than 21. I think being the 18th talent composite team, the roster they can bring back next year, the momentum they have, at least being the Pac-12 North champs. I mean, they got a lot going for them. I think they should be at least in the top 20.
So, aside from Coastal, what teams would you put yourselves ahead of?
USC. I think we're ahead of USC, honestly. I would put us ahead of USC. In my poll, I'm pretty sure. I think I put us ahead of.
Favorable thing is they don't have to play Oregon to make the Pac-12 title.
Very true.
I think that's a lot of why they got put as high as they did.
Yeah, but I would still put Washington above USC. I think head-to-head, Washington would beat them. I also think I just like Washington's returners better, honestly, than USC's.
Mm-hmm.
But LSU is not very high on the list for me, just because yes, they have a lot of talent, but I'm also a big like prove it kind of voter, and their results last year were obviously lackluster. So I don't even know if I even put them in my top 25.
I don't think I put them in mine either.
Yeah,
I think UCLA beats them too, so that's a major factor for me.
Yeah, I would put Washington ahead of LSU. Anybody else? I'm pretty sure UW was around the Miami, Iowa, Wisconsin mark, like in that category of teams.
I had you guys around the Florida, Miami mark. I had actually it was around like A&M in them, because I had A&M and Notre Dame a good couple spots lower than what it came out to.
I'm never high on Notre Dame and Texas A&M either. I think those were closer to being like 10 and 11 for me.
A&M just never wins the big game, so like you got to beat one of these good
Notre
teams
Dame.
you play. Obviously, I know every Washington fan can make the joke. Yeah, Oregon hasn't won the big game either. Oregon has beaten good non-conference teams in bowl games or in regular season games. It doesn't happen every time, obviously, and Oregon's choked a lot of easy wins like that game against Auburn in 2019.
Oh God!
But Oregon has beaten these teams at least.
Was he down?
That was 2010.
Was it?
But also unnecessary. Michael Dyer, yes, that was in 2010.
Oh yeah, it was 2010. Sorry, just had to get that shot in there anyways. But
no, you know what will traumatize me if you mention the running to the left behind Penei Sewell like a million times in a row. It's like, yeah, Penei Sewell's great, but you can only get away with that a couple times.
Yeah, I got you. As far as go for it.
Who would be your biggest mover, whether down or up?
My biggest mover is probably LSU down. I also don't think I had Texas in my top 25. Texas is another one I'm just never big on because they never deliver, no matter how good they are. So
UCLA is listed at 33, and I had them 20.
I did not have them in my top 25.
So that's a good 13-point difference.
That
also, Indiana is ranked 15th, and I had them 23rd. Miami is right where I had them.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Who's your top 4?
Oklahoma 1, Clemson 2, Georgia 3, Alabama 4. So the same 4, just in like a completely different order. Clemson's still second. Alabama goes from 1st to 4th. Georgia takes a bump up in a spot, and Oklahoma jumps from 3rd to 1st.
I do remember my 1 was Bama, my 2 was Oklahoma, my 3 was Georgia, and my 4 was Ohio State. And I had Clemson 5.
So you were just talking about Notre Dame and A&M. Would you put Oregon above those two?
Oh, I do you have the spreadsheet pulled up of everybody's results by any chance?
I could try and get it up if you want to start talking.
If you can, because if I recall, I had Oregon above one of them, but not both of them. I'm pretty sure I had Oregon above Notre Dame,
I don't
but not
have yours, I don't think.
okay.
Who did you have first?
Alabama.
Yeah, I have yours barely, kind of. You had Oregon above Notre Dame, and
Yep.
you had A&M pretty damn high.
Where were they at?
You had them like 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Okay, I had them at 7, so that's about where they were on the poll. I had Notre Dame at like 10 or 11, didn't I?
You had Notre Dame right behind Oregon at 10.
Yep, I had Oregon at 9. That's right.
And let's go ahead and say, for one, I don't think I was the person who put Oregon the highest. There was a few teams who put Oregon at the same spot.
There were people that put Oregon at like 6 or 7. I'm pretty sure.
I was one of them, but there were multiple.
Yeah.
So I'm not overly, crazy for putting them there. I don't think. I think looking at the polls, I'm at least semi justified, right?
Mm-hmm. I would say so. And also, I should add that for me, preseason isn't so much, oh, this is what the end all be all is going to be.
Mm-hmm.
It is who has momentum going into the next season.
It's something to work off of.
Yes, something to work off of. Obviously, things could change. I'm a firm believer that, that UW Oregon game is going to determine who ends up higher in the poll. I think UW can pass Oregon at some point in the season before they play. But just for the time being, based on momentum and talent composite.
And on paper.
And I would put Oregon having the advantage going into the season over Washington.
So another thing to note, especially for this podcast, the voter who had Washington the highest out of all voters would be Mike Black.
Mike, believe it or not,
Washington at 11th. So for all of you who think I am insanely biased against Washington, I had them higher than, and I still got crap for not having them high enough.
He had them higher than the actual guy who is a Husky fan and covers Husky football. So
and they were like, "Oh, well, why'd you put Oregon above Washington?" Everybody put Oregon above Washington.
Yeah, I mean, hey, I tried to be as non-biased as possible. I tried to leave. I left my Washington bias at the door when I made this vote. Obviously, the Husky fan in me would 10 times out of 10 put UW in front of Oregon, right? I put that bias aside for the poll. I put UW at 15. I put Oregon at 9, correct? That's what you said.
Yes.
Yeah.
I am looking at a poll right now that had neither ranked.
What?
Mm-hmm. Do you want to hear this?
Yes.
Alabama, Clemson, Florida, Michigan,
What?
Notre Dame, USC. Did they just write down the biggest brands? USC, Miami, Florida State, Nebraska, Coastal Carolina, Louisiana, UCF, UCLA, Cincinnati, BYU, Arkansas, Texas, Georgia Tech, Colorado, LSU, Memphis, SMU, Houston, Minnesota, and Ole Miss.
They had to have taken names out of a hat, or they were drunk, or both. There's no way.
Woo.
The fact that Arkansas being in the top 25 isn't the biggest travesty of that list, I think, speaks volumes.
Are they the only one that I can see of these ones that had Arkansas ranked? I'm pretty sure.
Nebraska, bro, at 10?
Nebraska.
Huh? What did he say?
What did he say? I could see buying into the hype and putting them at 25.
I guess.
I mean, you could at least you could
teams like that. Teams like that you could.
Me.
Teams like that you could sneak in at 24, 25 and usually sell it. Yeah.
I sold Texas at 25. They ended up ranked fucking 23rd, which I thought was too high because I barely had them 25th.
That's definitely too high.
But wow, having neither Oregon or Washington ranked, of all the ones I could see, is that the only one that has neither ranked? There are quite a few that didn't have Washington ranked. I think I helped you guys a lot in that.
Which I find really interesting.
Navy didn't have you guys ranked.
West Coast Pac-12 bias, I guess.
Tulane.
Even though all of the major lists and voters have Washington somewhere from 15 to 20.
Clemson had y'all 25th. Which is more reasonable than unranked.
Yeah, no. I guess, yeah.
I think there was a few people who had you 25th, but there was, so far I see 4 And I only have a screenshot of 6 voters who had you unranked.
Oh, jeez. That's interesting.
That's a lot.
We
Also,
have a very interesting collection of people voting too, I think.
yeah,
So,
I really wish it was more taken serious.
yeah,
Some.
there was a few people. There's a couple people.
Serious.
Yeah.
Like the one
sure.
who put fucking Nebraska 10th.
Yeah.
And Florida State 9th.
Yeah. Who do you think? I find it interesting. A lot of people were high on Ole Miss. I'm pretty sure I put Ole Miss in my top 25. Do you think they stay in the top 25 this year? Do you think they're good enough?
So I had them like 22nd.
Mm-hmm.
I think
Pretty sure I had them
enough.
23rd.
I have faith in Lane Kiffin. You had
Yeah.
Ole Miss a spot higher than me. Yeah.
Yeah.
I have faith in Lane Kiffin. But also they play in a tough conference. So like I could very much see them at like 6-6.
I think a 4 or 5 loss Ole Miss still makes the final top 25. I do.
So, question for you. What do you think out of the guys you put? We already went over what I think would be the most controversial on my list. Washington at 11.
Yeah.
What do you think is the most controversial part of your list? Unless you think Oregon being at 6 is more controversial than Washington at 11.
For my list, I wish I could remember. Can you like see
Name it
even
all
the rest
for you?
of
Yeah.
Yeah.
Alabama, Oklahoma, Georgia, Ohio State, Clemson, Iowa State, Texas A&M, North Carolina, Cincinnati, Oregon, Notre Dame, Florida, Miami, Penn State, Washington, Indiana, Wisconsin, mad low, USC, Iowa even lower, Coastal Carolina, Ole Miss, Louisiana, Arizona State, Liberty, and LSU.
I think Liberty, just because a lot of people didn't have them on their list. I am very high on Malik Willis. I think that dude is going to be a dark horse Heisman candidate.
Liberty was a 26th ranked team.
Were they really?
Yep.
Okay, well, then I don't.
Votes.
I don't really have any hot takes besides maybe Iowa and Wisconsin being low on my list.
Wisconsin was ranked 13th, and you had them like, no, you didn't have them that bad.
Yeah, I mean, what they were 17, 18, 19, somewhere in there. Yeah.
So now, just to end that off, what's more controversial, Oregon at 6 or Washington at 11? I think given looking at the FQ rankings, I think it's definitely Washington at 11.
Off of the FQ rankings, it is Washington
but in
at
your
11.
opinion, what is more? Your glasses off. You're doing it taken off.
Yeah. I still think Oregon at 6 is too high. I think you can make a better case for Washington at 11 than Oregon at 6.
My thing is, the teams we jumped were Cincinnati, G5 team. So I think a lot of people would justify that.
Yeah.
A lot of people would. Notre Dame.
Yeah.
Tell me I can't sell you on that.
Yeah.
A&M. I couldn't sell you on that if you give me enough time.
A&M every single year, even though they usually don't pull it out into the playoff, they are competitive until like the very end.
Yeah,
and they're usually
Bama
one of the
lose by 50.
I was gonna say they're usually one of the first teams left out of the playoff. Or last? Would that be last?
I'm saying I could make an argument for Oregon over all the teams ahead of them on the FQ rankings. Cincinnati, Notre Dame, A&M, and Iowa State. Obviously, we lost to Iowa State.
Oh, I'm really high on Iowa State.
So am I. I think I actually, where did I have them? I had them above us.
In my opinion, you can't make the argument that Iowa State and A&M are
I had
above
us
them
7,
right now.
sorry. So I had us ahead of Cincinnati, Notre Dame, and A&M.
I guess 7 is a little better.
Is that blasphemous? Like, I don't think that's really blasphemous or anything.
No.
I think it's pretty fair.
I mean, just looking at the rankings, everybody would say Washington at 11 is more of a stretch, but
I think the only stretch, let me see who you had Washington over that I'm just like, what? I definitely would not put you over Indiana.
You don't think so?
I'm really high on Indiana.
Okay.
And then Wisconsin is a toss-up. You guys have a similar
We're
style.
pretty. I was gonna say we're pretty even with Wisconsin. That would be a fun game, by the way.
It would be a fun game.
Yeah.
It was a really boring game for Oregon fans.
Yeah.
Because
it's not their brand of football.
They're the opposite of Oregon. They're like slow it down and make it real boring, and we're just like, yo.
Yeah.
Justin Herbert's got to be the running back. Yeah, Iowa. I don't know. I don't buy the hype for Iowa.
I don't either. And I think they're a good team. I think they're pretty like, Wisconsin, Iowa, Washington, all in a similar conversation. I would still take Washington over both of them. I ranked Washington above both of them. So 100% would take Washington over both of them. They're solid every year. They always have good rosters. They're always competitive, but they're not going to beat the Ohio States of the world. Like, Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, there's
They're the Texas A&Ms of the Big Ten.
the Texases of the Big Ten. Texas ain't winning shit either, man. You forget about that part?
Yeah, fair. They also don't have quite the media hype machine, though, that Texas does. That's a whole other monster.
All right, so here we're gonna do this. Dropping this on you like I do every episode, something with no advance notice. Score prediction for Oregon, Fresno State, and I'll do for Washington, Montana. If you get it right, I will cash app you $30.
All right, the same goes for you then.
All right,
so Oregon, Fresno State, I gotta put it at. See, the hard part is like you gotta count field goals into it, which is always the tricky thing for me.
Let's not get into field goals. They announced Camden Lewis is starting.
Oof.
So don't count field goals.
I will say 34-21 Oregon.
I ain't gonna have to pay you shit. I have y'all winning like 68-10. It's respectable, even though you went mute on me.
Sorry.
There you go.
The microphone.
You have them scoring 3 touchdowns on us?
I do.
Is one on our backups? You have Fresno State scoring 3 touchdowns on a top 10 defense in college football.
I do.
Would you agree Oregon is a top 10 defense in college football?
I would.
How high are you on Fresno State?
I think first game jitters will be a thing. I'm not saying that they're going to like trip all over themselves for the whole game. I'm just saying
that's
that like
what it sounds like.
Slow start. I think it'll be a pretty slow start. That's just
I was gonna argue, then I remember Anthony Brown's our quarterback. Never mind.
I was just gonna bring up, but weren't we just talking about Anthony Brown?
But I don't think they're scoring 21. I think all hell would have to break loose for them to score 21.
Hey man, did you see how they did against UConn? That's still pushover.
Shut the fuck up, man. I'm done with you, bro. How they did against UConn. That's like comparing how somebody did against Washington.
Not even in the same realm of conversation. Not even close.
So I've been basketball.
I was gonna say you know basketball maybe, but we talk about football in this podcast, so
we talk about whatever's in season, which neither have been in season since we started the podcast.
Yeah, true. So it's right now it's a football podcast. I don't know if basketball, I don't know. I'll just want to talk football all the time. So.
Of course you would. You don't want to talk basketball?
See, like it just amazes me how opposite like football and basketball are.
It amazes me how similar football and basketball are for Oregon.
Yeah,
just trying to breach over that peak, improving, but they haven't gotten over the hump yet. Well, I mean,
you look at recruiting and results, and it is totally like opposite. Almost.
Y'all can't recruit in basketball anymore, though. It's because you landed that one class and sucked ass, and now everyone's like, "Why the fuck would I go there?"
We still have. I'm pretty sure we land 4 stars pretty consistently.
Isn't it
I don't know.
4 stars in basketball.
I do not follow basketball recruiting. It is not my thing at all. I only pay attention to college basketball really in around February. So
we land like 2 5-stars a year on average.
Yeah. Didn't the Huskies aren't they in the finalists for a couple 5-stars? Or no?
I think you're in there for some You were in there for the guy we landed, Biddle, because he's from Oregon. So
oh yeah, I remember.
Proximity players you're in there for, but I really don't expect anyone insane to go there.
Yeah, I feel like people seeing how
terrible
Mike. Oh my God, Mike Hopkins ran that team. It's just a hard sell now.
Exactly.
There's no more smoke.
Well. Thankfully, we don't have to worry about that because we are finally into football season. Basketball season isn't for another few months.
Yep.
I think. So we're ready to go. And Oregon's going 1-0 this week. Washington probably the same. But 21 points, man. I'm not going to be able to get over that. Anyways, I do want to thank you guys for watching this episode. Matt, do you have any, sayonara remarks?
Yes, make sure you guys drop us a follow on Twitter and Instagram. We're trying to be more active on there. We have a link tree in the bio of both of those where you can, find the podcast on Spotify, YouTube, our channel, all of our social media. Make sure you check that out. Make sure to follow me and Mike on our personals, Sko Mike B and Schwaz40. Also follow FQ Ducks and FQ Washington for more of Mike's terrible takes. Actually, no, that's on your personal account now, isn't it?
Yeah. I changed it up a little bit.
Yeah, there you go.
And check out some of Matt's work over at NAIA football.
Yes, I'm interning over there. I'm doing a lot of graphic design stuff for him, just helping him with production and all that. It's been a blast. Shout out Corey for hooking me up with that gig. And yeah.
Do any of your college games get streamed?
Yeah, pretty much all of them do.
Ooh, I'm gonna do a watch party.
I'll shoot you some links, bro.
I'm gonna do a watch party.
You'll see me. Hey, you'll see me on the sideline waving my arms like a maniac. So.
On the sideline, you ain't out there getting tutties?
Homie, I am not even 3 months into my ACL rehab. You got to calm down a bit there, buddy.
You see that one dude at Clemson is already back from his Achilles? You should be back already.
I don't have D1 rehab facilities. So
he has $1 million doctor.
Hey, shout out Travis. Great trainer. Doing great with my rehab, but we are just not,
You don't have the resources.
We don't have the resources.
You're not sitting in a cryo chamber fucking recovering.
No.
You mean to tell me middle of nowhere university doesn't have a cryotherapy chamber?
Of course not, bro. We can't even afford turf on our own campus. We got to play at the city stadium for home games.
It's a high school stadium, isn't it?
Yeah, it's pretty much. It was supposed to be like a communal stadium, and then when they put the turf down, it just had all the high school stuff on it. So that didn't go well.
We just dissed the fuck out of your school on here. We love
it's
you,
not
though.
a diss. It's what happened. I mean, I can't lie about it.
But we do want to thank you guys for tuning into this episode of the Ducks and Dogs podcast. Hopefully next time, I get on my shit and get us a guest in here again, because it's a lot more fun when we have a guest about.
We gotta find some Michigan and Ohio State fans to get in here. Just have a giant verbal brawl. I think that'd be good.
That means we got to do another one this week.
Oh boy, maybe I don't know about that one.
Maybe plan on that for next week.
Yeah.
Oh wait, no, it doesn't have to be this week. The game's next week. Okay, yeah.
I was gonna say
we'll do that for this week. I was gonna say good luck finding a Fresno State and Montana fan. That would have been tough. But thank you guys for watching. We'll see you on the next episode. It's Mike and Matt signing off.
See ya.